Welcome to Thoroughbred 360, insights, stories and strategy from the commercial world of thoroughbred racing with your host, Bruce Slade. Hello and welcome everybody to episode 14 of Thoroughbred 360. Bruce Slade's my name from Kestrel Thoroughbreds. Australia, the autumn is ramping up. That's what we're going to touch on in this show today. And also some highlights from the Middle East too. Lots to talk about there. Opportunities to be had as well for Australia and New Zealand in this building racing jurisdiction. Really exciting things happening in that part of the world for horse racing and breeding. Let's kick off in Australia. Of course, the Lightning Stakes has run on Saturday. That big Group 1 feature sprint race, and Tentyris, he's back. The Coolmore winner, obviously an exceptional 2-year-old colt. Pretty unlucky really as a 2-year-old. Came back in the spring, won the Coolmore in really dominant fashion. A high-profile commercial stallion prospect for Godolphin, the son of Street Boss. And he returned on the weekend up the straight at Flemington there. Damien Lane rode him. He sat back off a good, solidly run race. Followed My Gladiola, the 3-year-old filly, everywhere in the run. She ran huge for John McArdle and their team, but it was Tentyris who just was too good. We all watch a lot of races, and you see patterns emerge. You see races play out, the shape, the make of the race, but gee whiz, just something caught your eye about the way that Tentyris accelerated in that race. His turn of foot, the way he picked them up, dropped them. He was explosive, certainly something out of the box, and by that I mean out of the box of the normal sort of race pattern you see. He is no doubt visually exceptional, and I'd expect the time data to prove that as well. A really exciting horse for Australia. Great to have a new star sprinter in our ranks. Of course, I've said it before, we are the best in the world, Australia, at racing and breeding these sprinters, and he, alongside, of course, the New Zealand bred Qiddiya Rising, look like the two top line sprinters of the globe currently. Let's put Jolly Star in there too, of course, terrific in the Expressway on return. She's getting older, but she's certainly got plenty of pace still. But yeah, Tentyris, exciting horse. Where does he go next? That's the big question. I guess the TJ Smith's got to be his main aim in the autumn. That'll be in Sydney. But that is still a good month and a half away. So, does he go to the Newmarket next? Sam Friedman saying wait. What weight he gets in that handicap race will determine that. I can't see many other options for him to lead into the TJ Smith, maybe against his own age in Sydney before that race. So let's watch and see where he goes. Of course, wherever he goes, he looks like being a leading chance and a really exciting horse for Australia and Godolphin, in terms of, possibly Royal Ascot they're talking about in the winter, or even a showdown in the Everest with the likes of Qiddiya Rising. Wouldn't that be an exciting race? So, yeah, great to have Tentyris flying the flag for Australian racing and breeding going forward. In terms of the commercial side of the equation, hats off Darley. I mean, they've got Animo, they've produced, they've bred, they've raised and raced through their system into broadsiding, and now they've got Tentyris. Just that model absolutely paying for itself if you keep producing stallion prospects, the value of Tentyris. Finally, just a quick touch on the cross. That Street Boss Exceed and Excel cross, responsible for Tentyris here, and of course responsible for possibly the best 3-year-old sprinting filly as well of this season, tempted also for Godolphin by a Street Boss out of Exceed and Excel mare. So look out for that cross going forward, whether it's through Street Boss or any of his sons, including the mighty Animo. So how do we value Tentyris? Remember our 300 multiple model. At one time sort of Group 1 winning horse, you can times his expected service fee first season by 300 to get a rough idea of where his value might be. I think Tentyris is a 50, 60 grand horse right now. So let's say his value at a 300 model is 18 million, but then add on the X factor, add in his premium stallion potential and commercial appeal. I think he's a 500x multiple really, and that takes his value to that sort of 30 million range. So 18 to 30 million, somewhere in there. I'd say closer to 30 than 18, but that's a rough idea of how to work out the value of Tentyris currently as a stallion prospect. Not that he'll be sold anytime soon, given he is in the Godolphin blue colours and will stand at Darley, Australia, certainly, and perhaps Darley, UK, Darley, USA, Darley, Japan in future too in the Northern Hemisphere. Autumn Glow has a big part to play for our industry in terms of building public interest, the general public's interest in Australian racing. Currently, we were lucky enough to have the likes of Black Caviar, then Winx, and now this unbeaten mare who was terrific in the Polo Stakes on Saturday has the opportunity to do the same. Trained by Chris Waller, of course. She's a beautiful mare, a beautiful weanling, sold for big money, obviously a $multi-million plus yearling. A beautiful mare in the yard, just paraded beautifully before the start on Saturday and paraded beautifully afterwards as well. She is an absolute star of a mare, and now each time she remains unbeaten. You know, wherever she goes next, there's lots of anticipation, the interest, the excitement grows, and of course, she's building that legend status too. So she is so important, I think, in terms of from a marketing perspective and our messaging through the thoroughbred industry in Australia and New Zealand to build that general public interest. So exciting for the game, but also I think another element of her is her ownership. You know, she reigns in the Arrowfield colours, the Massara, John Massara, a great person to have at the forefront of a mare that's pushing our Australian thoroughbred, not only globally, but even locally to the general public. But the other half of the equation too is she's owned by Hermitage Thoroughbreds. Eugene Chuang led Hermitage Thoroughbreds, of course, Hong Kong based as Eugene. They become very famous. Their colours, of course, raced the Autumn Sun, the sire of Autumn Glow. They've also got Lady Shenandoah, who was a big race in the Apollo as well. Those colours becoming very famous, the green and red diagonal stripes. You know, I've talked about it before. Southeast Asia is such an important jurisdiction for Australia and New Zealand in terms of trade, and we've had success through Mr. Zhang and Yulong for China within Australia, and now I think it's a great thing to promote the success of Hermitage as well. You know, this Hong Kong-based Chinese owner having so much success in Australia and owning this unbeaten mare, this superstar in Autumn Glow, and I think that's another success story that we can be sharing with all a success story we can be sharing with thoroughbred investors in Southeast Asia. You have the opportunity in Australia to race at the very highest level, race the very best horses. We've seen it with Via Sistina, and now we're seeing it again with Autumn Glow. A couple of feature 3-year-old races were run on Saturday in Sydney and Melbourne ahead of Group 1 feature 3-year-old races. The fillies, of course, the Light Fingers Group 2 race in Sydney. It featured the return of Apocalyptic. She ran enormous against the pace or speed map of the race. Of course, very leader biased there on Saturday in Sydney. Savvy Hallie jumped. Nash controlled things in front, and she kicked away, was too strong to beat Apocalyptic. Take nothing away from Apocalyptic, but also, you know, Savvy Hallie, she's been a great 2-year-old. She's been an exceptional spring 3-year-old, and now she got just desserts in that Group 2 Light Finger Stakes, winning the race. So congratulations to BK Racing, to Brad Wood, up to all the team there. Great to see her get that. She deserved it. A quick mention for the sire, Hellbent. He is currently 7th on the Australian General Sires List Premiership by earnings, having a big season, that young stallion at Yarraman. You know, he stands at a lovely price point. He's been well supported all the way through, and yeah, just good to see him sort of take that next step. He is a horse that's got there, not through one big performance of any individual horse, but through consistent group results, big prize money results, and another lovely horse, lovely proven horse for breeders, for buyers in that middle market. In terms of the 3-year-old colts, we had the lead up to the Australian Guineas run in Melbourne on Saturday, and that was won by Sixties. Obviously a colt still, so a horse that's building a stallion's portfolio, a stallion's profile, I should say. He was terrific in that race, 60s. Of course, trained by Chris Waller. He was short price favourite for the race. Damien Lane rode him. He didn't have any luck in running, sat 3 deep, faced the breeze, and still got the job done. I thought it was a super tough win. He'll be a really hard horse to beat in the Australian Guineas, and a win there will certainly cement his place at stud. He's a beautifully bred horse, of course, the son of Flying Artie. Flying Artie doing a really good job if you think about the likes of Asfura, of course, Artorius too. Now, this is the other side of 60s, this is his pedigree now. His mother, Gracie's Lass, by Reduced Choice, owned by Greg Perry. This is a horse bred by Greg Perry. This mare's just phenomenal. Not only has she produced 60s, but a couple of years earlier, Artorius, who now stands at Newgate. His first crop yearlings have sold well this year. She's then produced 60s. This horse, really smart, 3-year-old, of course, 60s. And her 2-year-old is by Home Affairs. It's called Jacaranda. She's in the Lindsay Park team, and she was enormous in the Millennium just last weekend. And she now runs in the Blue Diamond, providing she gets a run. So, wow, what an incredible pedigree this is built out to be. Greg Perry doing Greg Perry things, just a terrific breeder. And this mare now rivals probably Greg's, other best mare, which was the dam of Commanding Jewel and Atlantic Jewel as a Beal mare. So, yeah, Greg, you might, incredible to think that, Atlantic Jewel's dam might now be surpassed by this amazing mare, Gracie's Lass. Well done. Some nice 2-year-old performances from the weekend. Not sure it's going to make much difference to the Blue Diamond picture or Golden Slipper picture, but there were some smart performances. Probably most impressive, Hard Kick, a son of All Too Hard for Lindsay Park, winning on debut in the Talon Dirt. Certainly won in a dominant fashion. Can't wait to see the time ratings for that race. Had it happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, probably would have said, yes, Blue Diamond, he looks like a real live chance. Still a live chance, but very rare to see a horse debut and then a week later back it up in a Group 1 Blue Diamond. He'd have to be exceptional to do that. It is an open race, and not saying he can't win it, but just saying the setup probably leans more towards him being, a really nice slipper horse or a really nice size produce horse down the track. But I do think it does look like they are going to pay up and run in the Blue Diamond on Saturday with Hard Kick. In Sydney, the Pierrot Plate, 1100 metres, a good test. Again, not sure this group of horses is going to have a huge impact in the slipper markets, but there's a few more lead-ups to run, and this form may play out to be as good as any, who knows. But Kieran's Wish, she was great. She was good on debut. A daughter of I'm Invincible out of Bonnie O'Reilly, a $750,000 Easter purchase by Kieran Maher. Races, of course, in the Sneesby colours, who purchased this filly in conjunction with Kieran. Well done to them. Great win. Adds a lot of value to her going forward. And again, I'd like to see her again before the Slipper, but we're going to get a chance probably through the Riesling or possibly through even the Sweet Embrace. But we'll see where she turns up next. In Queensland, Pembury was very good for Kiora and Tony Golan, this filly of a daughter of Prague. She was actually passed in as a yearling. The mare's 9th foal, so she's out of a very good Edward Manifold winner in Say Sever, this filly. But it's her 9th foal, hadn't produced a stakes winner to this date. Still hasn't, but this filly looks like she's on her way to certainly picking up some black type. She was dominant there in Queensland, and I see Tony talking about bringing her down for a filly's lead up into the Slipper. So looking forward to seeing where she goes next for Kiora and their young stallion Prague. In WA, Maria Lucia was a very good winner of the Magic Millions 2-year-old Classic, a stakes race there for this daughter of Rommel. Big day for Rommel. He had 2 stakes winners on the card. In fact, beside the 2-year-old winner and the 3-year-old winner of the Magic Millions races there. Rommel, of course, now standing at Ridgeport Farm, which is Santo Gagliardo's farm. You'll be familiar with Santo's blue and green, lime green striped silks. Rommel stands there, had 4 stakes winners now from 122 runners. So doing a really nice job, Rommel. Son of Commands, obviously out of the Godolphin system previously. But yeah, this filly was really good for Sean Casey, the trainer, Steve Parnan, the rider. And I suppose of note, the 2-year-old family around this filly, like it just shows, and I've said it before, precocity breeds precocity. This filly's half-brother won the same 2-year-old race last year by Dirty Work, and her 3/4 brother won a stakes race in Perth there last year too. So her mother's dam producing a stakes winner by Rommel to win the stakes race as well. So incredible. Her dam producing a stakes winner last season too by Safeguard. So this is a family that's produced 3 2-year-old stakes winners in the last 12 months. So really, really sharp family. And finally, from the 2-year-old side of things, we'll finish with probably the most dominant performance of the weekend. A really exciting filly in Lara Antipova over in New Zealand. She is by Russian Revolution. She's an Australian bred by actually China Horse Club's Eden Harrington. Eden Jenny bred this filly. Beautiful type of yearling, selected by Dave Ellis, put through the Fortuna syndications, and she is now 3 from 3 in New Zealand. Won her first start by 8 lengths, won a Group 2 at her next start, the Wakefield Challenge by 5, and then won the Matamata Breeders on Saturday by 3. So 3 from 3 she is now, and $1.50 chance in the Sistema Group 1 race for colts and fillies in New Zealand in a couple of weeks' time. So she looks very, very smart, maybe as good as anything we saw on the weekend throughout Australasia. And I see there that Mark Walker is talking about bringing her over to Sydney, providing things go to plan in the Group 1 in a couple of weeks' time. Watch out for her, Lara Antipova. I certainly think she might stack up to our Australian 2-year-olds. And a quick shout out to the Waikato team, their young stallion Banquo, his first 2-year-olds now racing, and he had his first stakes winner in the Matamata Slipper on Saturday in those Waikato colours through Just In Case. Well done, team. Finally, to wrap up the Australian racing through the weekend, a couple of mares added group status to their form and some really nice residual value. In Sydney, Joe Pryde's Weeping Woman continued her terrific form. Group 2 Triscay Stakes, she was on pace. It was certainly suited those horses that could be on the pace and had the early speed there on Saturday, and she'd got the job done from in front, and importantly became Lonhro's 100th stakes winner. So that champion racehorse, that terrific sire Lonhro, now the sire of a century of stakes winners. So great to see for that champion, and this filly very much in that Lonhro mould and that dark brown colouring. And in Melbourne, the Trilogy team had a nice success with the Moody and Coleman stable. Paradise City, great name, beautiful filly by Deep Field. This out of a stakes-winning South African mare whose daughters produced the likes of Memo. So this is a really current family. A lot of nice fillies being bred up in this family, and this filly really took her residual value to another level by winning the group race there in Melbourne on Saturday. Well done to all the connections involved there. Over the weekend, the Saudi Arabia Cup was run. Now, this is an important topic. Not only is it the richest race in the world, $20 million US, it is contested on dirt, but what's happening in the Middle East is very exciting for thoroughbred racing and breeding globally. We've seen the investment in capital now in Saudi Arabia for sport and e-sport as part of their long-term economic policy. And it's great that they've got horse racing as part of that framework. Of course, we've seen success in horse racing in Dubai, a tier 1 nation, a great racing jurisdiction. Obviously run through their winter given the heat. But now we've got Saudi Arabia, we've got Bahrain, we've got Qatar, all through that Middle East, all now what we call a Category 2 IFHA racing jurisdictions looking to become Category 1. So they're putting a lot of money and effort into infrastructure, into horse quality, into race size fields. So herein lies the opportunity for thoroughbreds globally, and of course that involves and includes Australian and New Zealand thoroughbreds and their people. So how do we get involved? How do we fly our flag there? How do we make the most of this huge growth in these key areas? Of course, we've seen, Saudi Arabia come into live golf, combat sports. They've got their own Saudi league, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo featuring heavily in there, and a lot of other stars too. Tennis literally have made big moves in sport already, But what they've got coming is incredible. This city called Qiddiya City, it is a purpose-built city just for sports and esports. They're building a huge stadium that with the capacity of 100,000 people for all those field sports. They've got a racetrack to be included in there, a brand new F1 track for motorsports and F1 racing, a huge aquatic centre, tennis. This is going to become perhaps one of the epicenters of sport and esport globally, all in one place in Saudi Arabia. And again, I just say, what an opportunity for all of us in thoroughbred racing and breeding. So how do we get involved? Well, number one, we've got to get involved and fly a flag through our Australian and New Zealand breds on their race day. Now, it's a tricky time of year for us this year, of course, with so much prize money opportunity at home. But gosh, it would be great to see some Australians and New Zealand horses fly their flags or represent our countries on their feature race card. Their race card there on Saturday worth some 35 million US in prize money. The main race on the dirt was won by Forever Young, who won the race last year. Of course, the Japanese horse that won the Breeders' Cup Classic in November, a multiple Group 1 winner on dirt in Japan too, an amazing horse. But the turf is where our opportunity lies. Now, there was a sprint race probably that suits us best. It's over $13.50, a Group 2 race worth US $2 million. This year won by an American horse who was actually fourth in the Breeders' Cup turf sprint this year in November. Second in the race was Lazat. Of course, we saw Lazat in Australia. He ran second in the Golden Eagle. He also won at Royal Ascot, that horse, over the sprint journey. So we know we can mix it with those form lines, and that might be a nice place for us to start our Australian and New Zealand representation going forward. But they also do have, a $2.5 million 2,000 metre race, which was this year won by a Royal Champion in the Sheikh Obeid colours for Europe and or England, and Joseph O'Brien for Ireland won the Red Sea, the 3,000 metre race with Sons and Lovers. So that's a horse actually we might see up for the Melbourne Cup in time. So yeah, some turf opportunities there too, and no doubt opportunities for Australian, New Zealand horse people as well as their horses and well as our breeding programs going forward. So perhaps something all of us as individuals can focus on, can learn more about, can maybe visit, but also as a brand, as Oz Horse, as NZTM, these are areas not far from home that perhaps have been dominated by the UK predominantly in terms of that Middle Eastern involvement, but there's no reason why this is a big pie, and no reason why we can't add value for that jurisdiction too through our own thoroughbreds and their people. That's it for episode 14. Thanks everyone for listening. As you can hear, there's so much to be excited about, to be positive about. There's so much opportunity out there. So let's get it. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening.